senators, and representatives, I have the distinguished honor of presenting.
Forced migration has shaped societies throughout history. Under Stalin's regime, political decisions and economic policies dramatically altered the Soviet Union's demographic and economic landscape. In this lesson, we'll explore how forced collectivization, political suppression, and resource mismanagement influenced population redistribution, societal costs, and long-term impacts. The collectivization of agriculture forced millions of rural residents to leave the countryside. Skilled farmers, kulaks, were targeted as enemies of the state. Many were deported, sent to gulags, or executed. These losses weakened agricultural productivity as collectivized farms struggled to meet quotas without experienced labor. The mass exodus from rural areas led to rapid urbanization as people sought work in industrial centers. Cities faced housing shortages and poor sanitation, with hastily built worker settlements becoming overcrowded slums. Crime rates rose, and social services struggled to keep pace with the growing urban population. Despite these challenges, rural migrants became the backbone of Stalin's industrialization projects. Cities like Magnitogorsk and Stalingrad grew rapidly, and by 1940, Soviet industrial output had surpassed that of Britain in sectors like steel production. One of the most devastating outcomes of forced migration and collectivization was the Holodomor famine in Ukraine. From 1932 to 1933, forced grain requisitions and mismanagement left millions to starve. Rural populations, already struggling under harsh environmental conditions, bore the brunt of this tragedy. Mortality rates skyrocketed, with famine disproportionately affecting peasants who could no longer access their own food supplies. The collectivization of agriculture disrupted local cultures and economic structures that had sustained rural communities for generations. Traditional family farms were replaced by state-controlled collectives, eroding community bonds and local governance. Internal passports restricted movement, tying workers to specific locations. This policy diminished personal freedoms and further centralized state control over individuals' lives. The Soviet government used forced migrations and internal passports to maintain tighter control over the population. Resource allocation became centralized, ensuring that the state dictated where people worked and lived. These policies reinforced the Soviet Union's totalitarian structure, consolidating power in Stalin's hands. While the human cost was immense, Stalin's policies led to significant industrial achievements. By 1940, the Soviet Union had become an industrial powerhouse, producing more steel, coal, and machinery than many Western nations. However, this growth came at the expense of millions of lives and the suffering of displaced populations. The effects of forced migration under Stalin were profound, reshaping the Soviet Union's society and economy. Rural depopulation weakened agricultural productivity while fueling industrial growth. Social costs, including famine and the breakdown of communities, left lasting scars. By understanding this era, we gain valuable insights into how political decisions, environmental challenges, and resource management can shape human migration and societal change.